Okay, go again. Alright, I wanted to show you what the problem was in this gearbox. It wasn't why it wasn't going back into second from third. And before I do, there's something I forgot on the last video. The oil leak I had on the engine. I'll take you over there and show you actually, because I haven't washed it. But it's sort of dried a little bit hard to see. But yeah, discovered that the oil was coming from the fuel pump. Even though it's round the front of the oil cooler, but it's not at the back. You know, if it was the oil cooler, unless it was actually squirting out. But yeah, the fuel pump was basically only finger tight. And look at the fuel pump. I've now put nylock nuts on it. Hopefully they'll be okay with the heat. I don't think it'll be hot enough to melt the nylon, but yeah, put a new gasket in it. But the other thing I've discovered, this is the old fuel pump. See how the oil's all up around the side, on the underside of the fuel pump. Yeah. On observation, this pin is actually, which I can't really show you because I've got two hands to do it, but the pin is actually worn in the casing. So it appears as if the oil is leaking out of there as well. So fortunately I had another fuel pump. But of course this has been sitting around in the shed for a couple of years, this fuel pump. So, given I've got the filters on coming off the tank, so I'm going to have to wind the engine over a few times and pump some clean fuel for it and make sure I'm not pumping any dirt up into the carby. So, anyway, yeah, just wanted to show you that. So I've still got to wash the engine down, but yeah, it was a bit of a relief to find that, especially when I've got a spare pump. That, yeah, it wasn't the oil cooler. So, okay. Now, over to the gearbox. Another fortunate thing, if you'd watched previous videos, you'll remember I had an issue with the notch for the gear linkage to being on the underside, and I had a terrible time getting the nut done up. And yeah, unfortunately I'm able to change the what they call the hockey stick, which is this piece here, the selector bar. And yeah, I put a new seal in that before I put that in, so I just swapped the whole S-cone. But yeah, I won't have that issue anymore. Get to put this back in. This is the reverse gear selector, or reverse gear. Actually, that's the one that goes in the diff section. The other one, where is the other one? Oh, I know, I'll put it back on the shaft and the gearbox. But yeah, so this piece here is just loose. It's in there loosely, and on the select a pin, where is it? That's it there. Oh, yeah, here it is here. That's just a loose fit in there. So I'm going to have to put it right up into reverse, put the gear on it and feed it under the shaft and the other gearbox. So I might even have to tie a bit of string on it or something to hold it in place that I can pull out once I get it engaged in the shaft, because otherwise that's just going to fall out when I try and assemble it. I'll take that back out now so I don't lose it inside the gearbox. Okay, well, this is rolled out in the dirt. Oh, that's handy. Yeah, I suppose I've got to wash the whole thing anyway. Right, I've partially assembled this. I'm not going to pull it apart again. Oh, pull it apart again. Hopefully that will stand up. Right. You see, this is out of the other gearbox, the swing arm gearbox. Yeah. This in here. This is part of your selector. And you got two spring wires that go around there, and if only they got this little hook. I think the hook goes in, appears to go into these pieces. Here's the one that was left in there. So they just, I do a lot with the hook, so I can show you. The hook actually goes up in the middle of it. Or at least I hope it does, because otherwise I'm going to put it together wrong. But yeah, it appears that's how it holds in. But yeah, two of these had fallen out, and one of them's broken in half. Actually, I'll show you. So this was the problem of why it wouldn't go back into second. These were just loose in the bottom of the gearbox. Actually looks like they're both broken. So, obviously another piece had fallen out somewhere. Probably came out with the oil anyway, or got chewed up or something. But yeah, that was the cause of the problem. Now, well, that was the problem, and I think I know what actually caused it. This right here has a retaining ring. That ring's a bit loose too. I think, yeah, you must, I don't think they're a spring thing like most circlips. I think they're that springy to begin with, so, and when you open them up, you're stretching them that little bit, so I'm going to get the vice grips onto that now and clamp it back in tight. But that wasn't even on there. And I've got a feeling somebody pulled it apart and didn't actually put it back on, because when I went and put it back in, I got all this together, and it wasn't down far enough. It was about a mil too high to get the clip back in. And so I've had to return, rotate all the gears and push on, and eventually it slipped into place. Slipped down the mill, which allowed me to get this clip back on. So I'm thinking that somebody actually had this apart and didn't put the clip back on because they couldn't get it down far enough. So, yeah. If it had actually come out, well, then it's chewed up because there's no trace of it anyway. But, yeah, you think I would have learnt by now too to take pictures of things before pulling them apart. Like I was actually quite fortunate that I'd pulled this one apart first and laid it out in the order that goes, Right, I've found it confusing. The other thing I want to show you is on that one, I actually pulled the shaft right out, which came out fairly easy. This one won't move. It's got to have a pretty strong detent spring, and these don't screw out there like a rivet, they're pushed in. And so I didn't take it out anyway. I was able to just slide the whole thing out. Yeah, I just took the bolt out. But what I wanted to show you is the bolt doesn't fit exactly in the thing, there is room for movement. So that's like an adjustment. So it's something I'm going to have to check. What I did do, and I probably didn't even actually need to, because you can see the oil mark. It's even more prevalent on here. Yeah, you can see exactly where it was. But before I took it out, I actually got the hacksaw on the other side here where you can't. I don't know if I can show you. Yeah, it's on the other side anyway, but there's a very slight mark I made with hacksaw, which is on this edge. So I can put it back exactly where it was, you know, so. And yeah, hopefully it won't be out of adjustment. Yeah. But yeah, fiddly little things. I'll put some Loctite on that too. I don't know what the torque is, but it's only looks like a standard 8mm bolt. So yeah, which means they don't really have a lot of torque. You probably, I think they're only 15 pound or something, which is bugger all. You know, I'll usually go more than that. I've just learnt from experience over years how much pressure I can put on them. Different size bolts, you know, without stripping threads and things like that. You can sort of turn it, like if you're using like the right size spanner. Spanners are different lengths for a reason, and you put a fair amount of pressure, which sort of can't describe. It comes with experience, but you sort of know how much pressure you can put on it, and you turn it until it comes to a bit of sort of like a stop, where you'd have to put a lot more pressure on it to turn any further. And so that's where you stop. But if you haven't been working on things like this for as long as I have, I mean, I've been doing this for, probably since I was 10 years old, 50 years I've been doing this. So I've got a pretty good idea of how much tension I'm putting on it, just by the feel of it. And it comes from experience. It comes from not putting enough and having things come loose, and putting too much and stripping threads and breaking bolts and chewing heads off them. And that's sort of how you learn, But I've got a pretty good idea. So as I said, I don't know what the right torque for this is, and for me it doesn't really matter that much, because I'll put more than what's recommended anyway, and I'm also going to put Loctite in it, so it's not going to come apart. So yeah, anyway, so we'll get all this back together, and then it'll be wash time for everything. And wash time will be pouring petrol over it and turning it and turning it and turning it, and then hosing it and blowing it with air and pouring more oil over it, and do all that before I put it back together. Okay, well, there you go. Let's say goodbye here and just switch off. But I don't want to touch my hand with freaking oily hands again. I'm going to go and wipe my hands, so you're going to have to put up with me for another minute or so while I find a rag and wipe my hands, so I can touch my phone. So, anyway, hope this is helpful information to anybody that's attempting to do this, Alright, like, please. Bye.